and welcome to GoodGood Investing. My name is Rachel Grunn.
And I'm Andrea Cwik.
And guys, GoodGood Investing is here to provide you education and also opportunities to invest in commercial real estate. So if you think that's reserved for the uber wealthy, this podcast is for you because we are going to be dispelling myths and blowing your mind on a weekly basis. So this week we actually have a guest on the pod, and her name is LoriAnn Kuntz, and she is absolutely dynamic in the financial space. So I really appreciate the podcast because she brought up some taboo topics,
right?
Things that people don't want to talk about, which is your personal or business finances. So a little bit about LoriAnn.
So LoriAnn is a virtual bookkeeper and CFO for the creative entrepreneur. Her goal is to bridge the gap between traditional accountants and business owners. With experience in tax accounting, personal finances, and small business accounting, she has the insight and experience to help you level up help level up your business while removing the stress and burden of managing your finances. Whether you are just starting out or you have been in business for years, her mission is to help creatives feel peace about their finances while growing their profit and confidence.
Love it. Yes, and she also has a podcast called The Profit Priority, which we will dig into in this interview. So enjoy, guys. Hi, LoriAnn.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Great. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about you? Who is LoriAnn? Where does she live? What do you do?
Yeah, so obviously my name is LoriAnn Kuntz. I own a bookkeeping and financial consulting firm, and I live in Midwest Ohio. My husband's a farmer, so lots of corn and soybeans all around us. I have two wonderful little kids. My daughter's 3, my son is 1. So very much into the momhood of things. And then as far as my business goes, I from a very young age knew I wanted to be in like finances and numbers. Like I just saw the importance of it with my parents' companies. Just really saw that we needed to understand them in order to grow the business. So of course, what do? You go be an accountant, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go be a tax accountant, get my CPA license and everything. And I quickly realized I did not like tax and did not want to be a tax accountant. So long story short, I ended up leaving the firm I was working with, went back, worked for my parents' companies, and started getting some side bookkeeping clients. And I was like, this is really fun because what I saw was missing in the accounting firm was people were coming to us at the end of every year. So around this time, when we are recording, which is like February, March tax season, and we would do their tax return, and then we would send them out the door, and we wouldn't see them for another year. And they were like still confused, like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what's going on? And a lot of times they would come to us not having accurate numbers or accurate financials. So I saw that disconnect, and I really dove headfirst into wanting to support specifically creative entrepreneurs really understand their numbers from a month-to-month, week-to-week basis so they can continue to grow their business throughout the whole entire year and not just seeing their numbers once a year.
Love that. So what is your philosophy around money and investing?
I think philosophy, like investing wise, my philosophy would be it's very important. There's multiple different areas of investing that you can go down, and everyone has their own way, but I think it's something that you need to be looking into before you think you're ready. A lot of people put it off in investments, whether it's in stocks or whether if it's in real estate, whatever it is, they think about it as, oh, I'll do that later. But you need to start now and like put that as a first and foremost. And I would say for like me and my husband, that is a huge thing. And that's like our number one thing is like we got to continue to invest in our future.
Yeah, 100%. So, so we're both mothers and business owners like you, and I know like it can be so difficult to juggle that, right? Especially because it sounds like your husband's super busy as well, like, you know. So tell us a little bit more about that. Like, whenever you decided to start your own business, how are you able to find the time?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm trying to figure out how to find the time, and as it grows and changes. So I started my company about a year after my daughter was born. So the kids came first, and then I was like, you know what, I want to start this business and grow it into what it is now. And so it's kind of back and forth from how things were at the beginning. And really, what happened is I started working during nap times, during bedtimes, trying to juggle it all, not having a sitter, not having really someone there to watch the kids while I work. And that really led to burnout. And as the business grew, and as I continued to get more and more clients, I was like, okay, I got to figure out something to do. So then I brought on some help, like one day a week. And that really allowed me to really get everything done that I needed to be done in like 8 hours, because I could solely focus on that. And now I have about a day and a half that I have a sitter, and that's really whenever I focus solely on the business. And then if I need to, I'll pop in here and there during nap times and stuff. But it's a constant juggle.
So I know that entrusting someone else to look into your own personal finances is very vulnerable. It's like standing in front of someone naked, right? And I also know that I'm guilty of this as well, is it's like back when headphones used to have cords and cables before AirPods, and you stick them in your purse and then you take them out in a week and they're like this jumbled mess and you had to like untie it, right? I think a lot of people treat their finances that way. They're like, oh, just forget about it. Oh, it's tax season. Okay, here's this jumbled mess, figure it out. And I guess my question is, can you explain, and I know it's uncomfortable for someone to think about like opening up their books to someone else, but can you explain the importance of that and why like everyone who has a business, runs a business, should consider a full-time bookkeeper?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to acknowledging and understanding, yes, it's very scary. And a lot of times people will come to me, or they'll be like talking to me for a little bit through email and stuff. And it takes a while for them to get comfortable with even having that conversation. And so I want to acknowledge that it's very scary, very overwhelming, it causes a lot of anxiety. But the matter of the fact is, those numbers are telling a story. And so it's like looking back and being like, okay, what are they telling me? What has worked? What hasn't? And that allows you to be able to know what to change in order to grow your business and accomplish your goals, whether in your personal life or your business life. And it allows you to know what decisions need to be made. It's kind of this thing where you can look back at the history, but then we also know what's going to happen. It's telling like projection of what's going to happen if you continue to go down the same path. So, in like history class, whenever you're in school, everyone's like, oh, well, we can learn from the history. Like history repeats itself. Well, it's kind of the same thing with your numbers. Like we look at it that history is going to continue to repeating itself unless you make decisions to further grow and move the direction of your company into the way that you want it to go.
So do you also take on kind of like an advisory role as well with your clients?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, even just our monthly bookkeeping clients, we're not just like the traditional bookkeeper where we just go in and do your books and just deliver the reports. Like we're there to run ideas off of, to help you fully understand what's going on. If you have any ideas of like, hey, what's the next best investment for my business, and just need someone to talk to, like that's what we're here for. But then I also offer like a CFO service to where we do budgets, projections, cash flow, things like that. That just takes another level on top of it.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
so
sounds amazing.
At what point in someone's business do you think it makes sense for them to either A, hire like a personal bookkeeper, like the monthly clients that you have, or B, bring on like a full-time CFO? Like what would you say, when would that make financial sense for people?
Yeah, I would say monthly bookkeeping, for one, if you're not up to date and you're not doing it, then you need to bring on someone to help you. And so that allows you to be able to look at your goals and your strengths and weaknesses and kind of delegate things that you're not so good at. And then you can focus on the things that you are good at in your business. So that's the first thing. If you're not doing your books, if you don't enjoy them, you're not looking at them constantly, then that's when you bring on a bookkeeper. And a lot of people think it's more expensive than it is. So people that are like, oh, well, I need to provide a full-time salary for my bookkeeper. Well, not all businesses can afford that, and not all need it. I have like all of our stuff, we are not full-time, we're outsourced agency. And then as far as CFO, it's kind of for those people that want to just like, they hit a ceiling. They hit a ceiling in their business, they hit a ceiling in their numbers, and they don't know what the next step is. They don't know how to push through to get to the next profit margin, to hit the next sales goal. They're not sure what is going on there. So we take a deep dive into be like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we can change. And then also for those who are ready to really grow their team, and really hit the next figure, the next level, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think like, so I mean, listen, I know a lot of your clients, they're creatives, like you said,
Yeah.
and they're not savvy in finances. That's why they don't work in finances. So it is super important to bring on someone outside that can kind of help you be like, a third party to help you see your blind spots, because that's why you can't see them, because you're blind to them. So that's awesome. And then, I know, you and I have a very similar philosophy with how there's no such thing as like a failure. There's just like a lesson,
Yeah.
right? And so I want to hear you speak to maybe some lessons learned along the way.
Oh man, there's always a lot of lessons, and I do think a lot of people are like, "Well, what's your biggest like failure or something that hasn't worked out?" And I'm just like, "Well, I really don't." And even in the moment, whenever something's not working out, I don't ever view it as a failure. I'm like, this isn't. It's something that is difficult. We have to work through it, and we will figure out what the lesson is on the other side. Um, I think the biggest one is making sure you're very clear with your clients. There's been different situations, and especially whenever I'm growing a team. So that's been another level of challenge that I've had to work through, is just make sure communication is very clear with my team, to where they can communicate very clearly with our clients. Make sure that all of our SOPs are in line and that we are all on the same page.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So tell us also a little bit more about your podcast, Profit Priority. I love the name, by the way, the Profit
Thank
Priority
you.
Podcast, because we're also aligned there.
I love your podcast image too.
Oh yes, it's so good. Yeah, you guys gotta go check her out. Her like thumbnail for her podcast is very cool.
Yeah, I'm really obsessed with that picture. I think it's awesome.
Should be. No, you should be.
I'm never changing that. And my name too. It took me forever to come up with a name that really aligned with like what like our vision and our mission is, and then also just like me as a person. And definitely Profit Priority is in that. Obviously, like everything we do, we want to put our profit as the number one thing. And that's what the podcast is about. Is there's so many different areas that people focus on. A lot of it's sales. You can sometimes focus on expenses too much, but a lot of people look at sales and they're not looking at your bottom line profit. And that's really what's driving and growing your business. So that's what we focus on. There's guests that come on and talk about different things and just business in general, finances in general. So it's not just solely bookkeeping for creatives, but just business as a whole, with a twist of really prioritizing your numbers and your profit.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, you're flying blind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you typically get your clients?
Oh, word of mouth. Most of our clients come through word of mouth, or I go on a lot of podcasts. So I do a lot of podcast guesting, as right now. And I really enjoy that. We kind of create a lot of them come from Instagram too, but a lot of times that's driven by podcast guesting or referrals is like the back end of things. So I haven't done a lot of like marketing, really. I would say I really believe in, it's not really necessarily how you do different marketings, but it's like who you know. Like is so you just want to have that network, that strong network. So that's the biggest thing that I focused on in the first like year of my business, was like networking. The amount of like networking calls I would go on and people I would meet, like it was crazy.
That's awesome. And so do you just work in Ohio or outside of state as well?
out all over the U.S. So I really have like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 clients here in Ohio, and then everyone else is outside of our state. So it's really fun, but we do prioritize the United States because tax laws and everything's different outside of the country. So I don't
Oh
know anything
yeah.
about that.
No, yeah, no, definitely. That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I've had people come ask me from like Canada and Australia and the UK, and I'm like, I have no idea what is going on over there. So, no, not us.
That's great. So I mean, I love that you have the accounting background as well. Like, I think that adds like such a dynamic, like facet of your business, right? Do you think that there are any businesses too small that you maybe, because I think there's this misconception as well that you have to have like employees in order to be a legitimate business and need a bookkeeper and run reports and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's no business too small to prioritize numbers. Like you need to start from the get-go. Um, and I would even say start, I mean, you want to have your LLC open for legal purposes and stuff, but if you like start investing in like yourself and your business before that, like you need to start keeping track of things. But I wouldn't say there's anything too small. I would say I've had people come to me that are not ready to invest in us as a bookkeeper, mainly because they're in the red. They're losing money month over the month, and they financially just can't afford that. But then it gets to the point of like, okay, then it's time to ready to do it because they're not keeping up on things. So I have that wheelhouse where people are coming in and they're losing thousands of dollars every month in their business. And I'm like, I, in good conscience, am not going to tell you that like you need to hire us for $500 a month. Like I'm not going to do that to you.
Yeah.
And so I've created a template shop and DIY programs and things that they can do for that because I still want them to be able to prioritize their finances. But then there's another group of people that are really doing really well in their business and have that mindset of, well, I need a in-person building and I need employees and all this thing to be able to afford and be able to bring on a bookkeeper. And a lot of those people don't know that you can bring on like a agency or a firm for part-time work. A lot of them are like, okay, well, I need to bring in a like physical secretary bookkeeper to come into the building and do their books. So I think there's that misconnection with that. So there's kind of two different wheelhouses there of when people come.
So you talked about a person that, month over month is in the red. How do you help turn that situation around for them?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. So it could be a sales problem. It could be an expense problem. It could be multiple different things combined. And so we have to look at and be like, okay, if our sales are really bad, then we got to look at marketing. So what are you doing for marketing? Like where are you going out finding clients? We really need to focus on that. I've had other people that are really, really heavy in business coaching. And I'm not like, I think business coaches are great and amazing, but that's one area that I see my clients struggle with is they're very quick to whip out their credit card and spend money on business coaches and hit up these $20, $30, $40,000 packages. And I'm like, hold on, like you got to look at your numbers first before you do that. So it might be like controlling that a little bit and kind of like informing them of that might not be a good idea there. Another thing that people will kind of get confused on too is that they will have their profit might look good, but then there's no money in their bank account. And that turns into a cash flow problem. So a lot of people are like, well, why is my profit and loss looking really good? Why is my profit margins great? But why is there no money in my bank account? So a lot of times people will be spending personal money out of their business account. They might have different loans going on that's coming through on the balance sheet and not necessarily on their profit and loss. So that's one area we look to as well. So we kind of want to balance both of those.
I think I need you for my personal.
No, 100%.
I have those months of credit card bills where I'm like, whoa, what happened?
Where did that come from?
How many times do you go to Target? That's what I ask myself.
Amazon.
I'm like, oh, Amazon, Target.
Right, those
Yikes.
Amazon boxes. I'm like, I gotta open
Like,
those. What did I order?
Like $15 here and there really
Yeah.
adds
Yeah.
up quickly. So
I know.
speaking of credit cards, what are your thoughts on like debt versus leverage when it comes to businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like that you asked that. So everyone's a little bit different. I am not one that is going to say like absolutely no debt, like you shouldn't have any debt. I'm going to say you need to be very, very, very careful with it. I have 2 business credit cards and I leverage those credit cards and use them because I'm already spending the money. I just put down, like, did a big investment in my business. And so I was able to use the credit card and got like cashback rewards for that because I was already going to be spending the money. That's the key, is that if you're going to be using credit cards, you use it whenever you're already going to be, and then you pay it off every month. You don't want to like slowly accumulate stuff because it's going to really kick back on those interest and those fees. So I definitely think credit cards are a good thing to use. I just want you to be very, very careful with them and make sure that you are able to. And I would say in the very beginning stages of your business, depending on what business you have, I would say, because my clients, a lot of them they don't have inventory, they don't have a lot of expenses. They can work from their home office. They don't have to have like a building that they go into. They don't really need a credit card. And so they can get by until they have a good cash flow to where they can hit those payments, to where they can make sure they can control it. And whenever they get their $8,000 credit card bills every month, after they've made those purchases, they can afford to pay off in full.
I love that. And you're in that high ticket coaching world, right? Is that where a lot of your clients are coming from?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm more in the like brand and web design space and photography space. I do have some high ticket coaches too. I started more towards that, and then I kind of shifted a little bit more towards creatives because I saw the big need for people like me in that space.
So once they're hitting, let's say their 6 figures, where are you seeing that they're placing that money? Like, is it mostly just going back into the business, or are they then, looking for more long-term investments, passive investing, cash flow? What are they looking for?
Yeah, I would say a lot of them really quickly, if they're in the coaching space, they're really quick, like I was saying, to put that money back into their business, which is good. But then I also, like you were saying, with other investments too, I also try to point out, like, okay, look, like, what other things do you want to do? I have quite a few different clients that are really looking into and building their real estate portfolio because they want to have that side of investing in, as well as like investing in their stocks and stuff. And so it kind of just depends. And I would say a lot of people hit 6 figures in sales. Um, and depending on their expenses, that's when we would probably switch them over to S corps, and then that would obviously they would have to pay themselves a salary as a W-2 employee through that. So that would kind of change things up a little bit, and we would want to get very stable after that before we would look into any other investments. But once people are starting to bring in quite a bit of income and profit, then it's like, okay, we got to figure out what to do with that. Because if you're bringing all of this home, like, you don't want to just blow through it. Like, we need to think through on the personal side of things. Where are we putting that money?
Yeah.
What is your rule of thumb on cash reserves?
3 to 6 months of business expenses, of like operating expenses.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah, because I know everyone has a different like barometer, right? But I think 3 to 6 months is relatively healthy given that business is expected to continue, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, I mean, I have certain clients that I tell different, within that 3 to 6 months. If it's a client that, for example, me, we are all on retainer, and the idea that like all of our clients would drop off at the same time, like, that's not going to happen. So I'm very confident that like we won't ever need 3 months of business expenses because our income has dropped to zero. But then I have other clients that work on project basis or things, and it could fizzle out to have no sales or very little sales. And that's when I would want it to be more towards that like 6-month mark.
So it depends on like what your revenue model is, whether it's gig based or whether it's subscription model.
Yes.
That's so good. I love that. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening and their mind's just been blown and suddenly they realize they have all these blind spots that they really need help, determining and fixing, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to LoriAnnKuntz.com and we have a contact button there and you can fill it out and I'll get back with you and we can schedule a discovery call. Or you can find me on my Instagram page at LoriAnnKuntz.co.
And we will have both of those linked right below in the description. And then also if you guys, you guys definitely should check out LoriAnn's podcast, Profit Priority. We've listened to it. It's amazing. Yes. No, seriously, it's amazing. And I just feel like the way that you talk about finances is so approachable. It's not scary. Like, I just love it. I think it's awesome. So I think everyone should go and listen. We're also going to link her podcast down below. So you'll have all the resources you need to get a little bit of LoriAnn in your life. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any parting thoughts you have?
I don't think so, other than educate yourself on finances. That's the biggest thing. Go listen to a lot of financial podcasts, get as much information that you can, and that's how you're going to be able to learn.
I love that. You have to take agency over your financial future. I love it.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We absolutely loved having you. You are a treasure. So thank you so much for coming on GoodGood Investing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Wow. All right. That was pretty cool.
So tidbits that I'll take away from that.
Yes.
A great interview.
Yes.
I think 3 to 6 months of reserves, always good. For personal, we only talked about business on the podcast, but personal as well. 3 to 6 months of reserves sounds good to me.
I like 6 to 12.
Right.
Everyone has their different, but also like, I feel like my 9 to 5, I'm a realtor and it's very gig based.
Right.
So it's like, I don't have a salary. So there can be dry months, and so it just gives me better peace of mind. But that's what LoriAnn was talking about on the pod too. She was like, it depends on someone's business and their comfort level. Right. And also, like, if they have kids and family, it might be different, right?
Right. Yep. Another tidbit is to stay on top of your finances on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah. Sounds
Don't
disgusting.
just like do it at the end of the year when taxes are due.
Yeah.
So staying on top of it.
Ugh. I don't even like open up the Wells Fargo app.
I have everything on auto pay, so it's like, man, opening up the mail is a chore. Ugh. That's a chore.
I'm just like, don't even want to know. Don't even tell me. I'm like, let me know if I go broke. I'm sure they'll text me or call me if I overdraft, right? Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. So people like me need LoriAnn in their lives, right? It's just like, it's not that I don't know how, it's that I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's just horrible. You're already spending so much time running a business and...
Well, that's the thing, it's the time part.
It's just like,
it takes a lot.
Not something you want to spend time on. It's like really gross looking at numbers and stuff. So,
we like looking at the positive cash flow numbers, though.
Show me the green.
It's the expenses part that are hard to see.
Literally, I go in my business checking and I'm like, let's just click on deposit so I can feel really good about myself. Just forget about the withdrawals. Just forget about it.
Right.
So
in a perfect world.
In a perfect world. It'll be just all deposits. That'll be it. Well, guys, I hope that you gleaned a lot from this episode. I believe next week we'll be back, just the two of us, blowing your minds about all things commercial real estate investing. Yeah. But we also like to have these guests on to provide like a holistic, well-rounded approach to your financial health and well-being, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, if you need us, you can find us at goodgoodinvesting.com, where you can also access our free resources. You can schedule a call with us, get on our list in order to receive information about future networking events and workshops. Am I boring you?
Sorry. How do you hold in a yawn?
I don't know, but I'd like to see you try. She's like, I've heard all this before, Rachel. They've heard it all before. You guys don't care. Go to goodgoodinvesting.com and you'll get everything that you need, pretty much.
Yeah. Sign up for our email list, get our tool, our 3-in-1 net worth assessment tool. You can always email us if you have questions. Keep listening to the pod. Support us. Write us a review. Put the 50 stars. And
5-0, baby.
We're good to
5-0. It's literally the least you could do. I think it's actually the most. But yeah, email us if you're bored, if you need a friend. We're here. We're here to serve. So until next week, guys, don't invest good.
Invest twice as good. Bye.